Hello, this is KValravn, and this is my trading card entry, or playing card entry for Kingdom Arts and Sciences Festival AS55. Here I'm just preparing the parchment with my borders and my drawing. I'm doing Death from the Visconti Sforza tarot deck that is at Yale. I didn't like the first version of the horse. It wasn't as proportional to the original as I would have liked, so I redrew it. So this is just using a pencil with a 0.3 millimeter lead, which is very tiny, which is something I love working with. So horse is drawn. Now I'm starting to draw the skeleton. I'm sorry if you hear my dog moving around. So this is at 20 times speed. So it's much faster than I was actually drawing. So now I'm drawing the people at the bottom. My camera was a little fuzzy. I don't know at what point that happened. So now I'm inking with a Crow Quill Nib. I believe it is by Nico. And Noodler's Bulletproof Black ink. I have not tried period inks, primarily because they interest me, but I haven't tried them because they aren't archival. And I've always been taught that if it's not archival, you should stay very clear of it. But I would someday like to try them. Not that I think like any of my art is going to last forever and ever and ever, but it's just ingrained in my brain. So the back of the horse's leg looks a little thicker. I was adding the second leg, which kind of got cut off in the original, where I thought it might have been. Later, you'll see that I get rid of that because I did see that like the little hoof is protruding in front of the other hoof. So I correct that in painting. So I started out, the original has a gilded background, but I started out using Instacall. And then I realized I could just make gesso. So I Instacall everything, and then I changed my mind. So this is for naught. But it's such a pretty color. A little, what I'm guessing is a Pope man at the bottom. Religious figure, if nothing else. So this is me making the gesso. I'm trying to perfect the recipe in grams. However, when I got to the honey, it wouldn't measure. So it's not enough honey to measure on, as a gram. So I used hide glue that is just from the hardware store, and slaked plaster, I believe. Slaked or slacked. I've only read it. And water. And here I'm using some pigment that is I had to go look. Dragon's Blood resin that Master Eldred, the Triton Herald, gave me last year at 12th night. But it proved to not be opaque enough here, or I would have had to use way more of it, and I didn't want to use the rest of what I have on this. So I will go over all of this with this less opaque color, which On the original, a lot of the gold has worn off, so you see this red color, and I wasn't sure if I wanted the red color to show through or not, like to rub some of the gold off. So I mixed in some gouache with the gesso after I do this. So immediately I will have added a base layer for my gold 3 times. Yes. So this is after I've added the gesso. I'm still relatively new to gilding. It's still at the point where it's a little scary for me. I've gotten a little more used to the Instacol. This is my first attempt at using gesso for gilding, and I don't love it, but it did allow me to add impressions into the gold like the original, which is why I actually used it. So the color's right, and it allowed me to add textures. So this is loose leaf gold. It is not patent gold. Also my first, I think, if I tried it before, I don't remember, my first attempt using loose leaf, and I could not get it tacky enough, and then there was like some tragedy that happened in the lower right hand corner there that I kind of fixed later. I did try to wet it and burnish over that, but that just smeared the red paint that was in the gouache, as you can see kind of on that sheet. So I used 2 sheets of the loose leaf gold. I will definitely need more practice on that in the future. So a little bit of burnishing, cleaning it up a little bit, trying to get the specks that didn't quite gild. And then this is me incising the dots around the border. That was a magnifying glass that got in the way there for a second, which I ended up not really using. And then another layer of dots. This went a lot faster with the ruler. I highly recommend using the ruler because you didn't have to have as steady of a hand. So there are diamonds that are made with diagonal lines and dots. I found it easier eventually to do the dots first. And I made the lines just with a palette knife, which was harder to control than I anticipated. So these are every 1/2 inch I found at the top. They're spaced 1/2 inch apart. More dots. And the lines that go with them. That was me trying to rub some of the gold off, and it didn't quite work, so I opted to not let the red show through as much as the original. Adding the flowers and vines to the border, and then there are little suns inside of each of the diamond shapes. And this is all with like a nail art stylus, which I don't use very often, but it was kind of perfect for this application. Gold is really hard to show texture, which is what all the different lights were for. All right, now I'm using egg tempera, egg glare, mixed with gouache here for the border. I used egg glare for all of the painting on the card, and I used Winsor & Newton gouache with it. I do a lot of layers with the egg tempera. I like the way that they end up looking, just with it adds a lot of depth. I do go over it and over it and over it and over it. And if you look at the original, the texture of the skeleton very much looks like it has several layers of the egg tempera using glaire. And I use the glaire instead of the yolk because that is more flexible. If I had used the yolk, it would have had to have been on a like harder substrate, like a board or panel. More layers. I really like working with egg tempera, glaire and yolk. I like yolk a lot better because it's got like a great like thick consistency, but the glaire, if you let it sit for a little while, it does get less runny and it just stands up a little bit better than water. You do have to mix a lot of water with it. Not a lot, probably 50-50 is what I use. But I like being able to layer my paint a little bit more than just gesso allows. Not gesso, I'm sorry. Just gouache. Adding some darks to the Skelly Boy. I have a thing for skeletons. So this is an obvious choice for me. He's got like swirly guts in the original. Those were harder to get in there than I thought. So adding some darks to the horse. You can see the brush strokes in the original horse also, which is another reason I use the egg glaire. Adding some highlights. The swirly guts. Skeletons don't really have guts though. I think that they were just saying it's a mystery what's in here. That is not historically accurate commentary. More darks. And lights. I do toggle a lot between the darks and the lights just because I like the push-pull of bringing stuff out or pushing it back into space visually. So now I'm adding the like yellow brown, it's not quite ochre, to the staff, we're gonna call it, and anywhere in the hair of a couple of the people in the bottom. And their head pieces, some of them have yellow. Now there are these blue flowers around the border. And I just put dots and then kind of circled them on the inside. On the original, they go into the painting. I chose not to do that because they would not stick to the gold for one, and I like them being in the border. It almost looks like they were stamped in the original. I go back to the white a lot. At some point I realized I was using my glaire alone that just ended up having a lot of white in it. So I had to add more white to the glaire. So you'll see me go over this twice. Faces, I just kind of blacked out. They had black accents and that was too harsh. But I like having that show through just a little bit. So putting more of that flesh tone over top again, and then I go back soon, right here, I think, and add highlights to the faces right here, yeah. So the cheekbones, the nose, the forehead, some of them the chin, get highlights. If you think of like where you get sunburn, that's where highlights on your face should go, because that's where the bones are. That's what's protruding out of your face. Little tiny hands. The grass has 3 greens on it at this point. It's gonna have another one. I'm assuming it's grass. There is a green substance that they are all on, so we're just gonna go with grass. This is just adding tiny, tiny, tiny eyes and marks where noses and mouths would be on the faces. I like to use a color and then work it around the entire composition wherever it shows up. It makes painting go a little faster. More detail on the faces, some highlights on the clothes, and the horse. So here I'm trying to take some gold mixed with gouache. It is gold leaf and metallic powders from, I'm going to say this wrong, Newburgh Ebel, and it's extra brilliant rich pale gold. I've been told that this is a really good match for 23 karat gold, and I've actually found that to be true. But next here I am cutting out the card, and then I will be photographing it for my entry.